Mhm.
Hey, last year, Stephen was officially welcomed as a full member of Il Divo. What does it mean to you as a group that your very first album with him to be recorded is actually this celebratory one?
Um, it is very difficult and very different for a classical singer to sing, to record Il Divo. Most classical singers, I know that from David and from myself when we started, do not have that experience of being in a recording studio and recording vocals like that. I don't know how much you know about the recording process of an album, but I mean, we record every instrument, every vocal, and everything separately. So you
Mhm.
stand alone in the sound booth with headphones on and you hear the track. And it's just a very different environment.
Yeah.
And it was just like another big uh, stepping stone for him, to integrate himself into that band. And I mean, it's like all of us, it's been a very steep learning curve for him because
Mhm.
I know that it cost me many years, recording of many albums and many years singing on stage as well with the microphone until I got used to the different dynamics of using your voice
Yeah.
and how you listen to yourself and everything. And I remember very well when Steven started recording these tracks because he's so far, except for when he's done some like mariachi stuff, some popular Mexican stuff, which he likes very much. But for the rest, he's been a purely classical singer. So he had, even when we started recording the Double X album, he had a very
Mhm.
classical approach on a lot of the vocals, and he
Yeah.
needed a bit of guidance. I think mostly David spent the first days with him in the studio just to give him ideas of how to use the voice in a different way, how to use much more colors and shades that he has available, which you normally in classical music, when you're on the opera stage, you don't use that because you need to fill the whole theater with your voice only acoustically. So you need to have that big resonance and everything. You need that at all
Yeah.
time. And when you're in the studio with a microphone, you can sing as quietly as you want. And the sound engineer will do his magic.
Yes.
So, but he's done very, very well. And I mean, gosh, I'm so proud of that production of that album. I think it's, even after 20 years, I think it's the best thing we've ever done. And Stephen has done his part, has contributed his part to it. And it's just I count myself so lucky that we found him because he fits so perfectly in that group.
It's amazing, definitely.
Mm.
So in the Double X 20 anniversary album, you have managed to bring together diverse and wonderful hit songs from artists like Whitney Houston and Ed Sheeran and even Luis Fonsi. Um, what would you say were the aspects about these songs that made you decide to include them in this celebratory album?
That was a very funny process because, like always, we just collected loads of songs. Each of us, we made a list and we compiled those lists together. And I don't know how many songs we had, if it was 100 or 150 or whatever, and then you start like skimming that down. And because, yeah, other people might have completely obscure ideas which I don't like at all, and vice versa.
Mhm.
And in the end, obviously, you record 10 songs and you want to record 10 songs where each of the four members can find themselves in them 100%. So, what Sebastian suggested at one point, and I thought that was a very funny process and it worked very well, he said, let's do the perfume test. And what he meant by that is that, like, when you test a perfume, when you go into a perfume shop and you spray it on and then you let it wind a bit and then you smell it. And you can pretty much immediately tell, I like it or I don't. Next one.
That's right. Yes.
And that's what we did. And it worked so well, actually. We had about 30, 35, 40 songs left, and we had a bit of time before a show in one of the cities we were on tour in 2022, actually.
Mhm.
Uh, and we just sat down for a couple of hours with, a set of loudspeakers and Spotify, and we just went through these songs. And we just each of us, we took a sheet of paper, and with each song we listened to, we did yes, no. And then in the end, we just made a count. There were songs
Yes.
that had one voice, two, three, or four voices. The ones that really got four voices, well, that was clear. And then, but that wasn't very many actually. That was probably three or four pieces, not more. And then we went to the ones that got three voices. And while we listen as well, we said if somebody just said, I mean, it might have been stuff where I say, I'm absolutely not going to record this song. I hate this song. I always hated it. It's okay, let's move to something else. It's no problem. There's enough music out there. But that's kind of how we did it. And it worked out really well. And I think all the 10 songs we have on this album, we all love those songs. We're very proud of it. And then when we recorded them together, we all worked on the arrangements together. We were very intensely involved in every step on the way of creating this music. And I think that has led to an album full of music which we 100% identify with as the group Il Divo. I think that's very, very important.
Yes, absolutely. And actually, speaking about that, how would you describe this creative process, behind such a project like Double X, the 20th anniversary album? How would you describe how you feel it, how you experience that?
It has changed the way we've recorded albums over the years very much because, especially in the beginning, when we were just brought together by Simon Cowell, we were
Mhm.
literally just the singers. We didn't even arrange our own vocals. We had a producer. We literally sat in the studio until the producer said, Urs, come and sing this line. And I did that. And then I went back out into the lobby or just back to my hotel room. And at some point, 3 months later, they said, okay, here's the finished album. And
Oh, okay.
that was all we did at that time. And now we've been involved from the very first creation of the very first note of this album. We do not do orchestral arrangements, obviously. We needed people for that. We don't do that ourselves, that is something very particular, obviously, and you got to be knowledgeable about that. But our producer, who has worked with us previous on the album Amor y Pasión, he did most of the arrangements for that, Carlos Lopez. He's done the musical arrangements, and he sent us demos of these musical arrangements from the very beginning on, from their very early stages on. So we had long, long, long conference calls about every single song where we discussed, sometimes very generally, I don't
Mhm.
like that vibe. I would like something more orchestral. Sometimes really down to certain notes. I think that note in the cello there and at minute 275, 35 is beautiful, but I think it should go the octave up instead of down. Literally to that extent, we were involved in the creating of the arrangements. And once before we went into the studio actually to record the vocals, we wanted to have all the music done.
Okay.
Because especially our producer was very much of the opinion that we have done that before, that we've recorded the whole album just to a piano demo, but it gives you a different feeling if you have the full
Mhm.
orchestra behind you. And at any time when you sing from beginning to end of the song, you listen to the full arrangement with the orchestra and all the different instruments. And I'm sure we can do both, and we can do both very well. But in this case, we decided we record the full backing track and then we go into the studio. And what we did was just first record all the lead vocals. We shared
Mhm.
paper. We sat together, not always all four of us. I remember sitting with Sebastian in the studio, and we have got these 3 songs still to arrange. Let's sit together. What do you think? Okay, you start a song, then David would fit well in here, you know, and blah, 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 blah. And so we carried on. I think we've done that actually very well because we obviously known each other for 20 years. And Stephen is newer, but we kind of I mean, his vocal capacities are very similar to what Carlos used to do and could do. So I think we had a very good feeling. We hardly changed anything actually then going into the studio from what we have written down on paper, which was I thought that was great. And then once we had recorded all the lead vocals, came kind of the most intensive part for us because we sat all together in the studio and we created and recorded all the harmonies as we went along. We took one song at a time, listened to the whole song, and okay, what are we gonna do here? Okay, first lead line, solo. Second lead line, is a different musical theme, so we still leave that alone. Okay, then there's a repetition. Let's put a harmony on there. It probably might sound quite boring for if you're not a musician yourself, but that's how it went along. And the interesting thing about it is that you completely cannot make any projection in how it's going to go because it is most of the time it turned out like that. What we thought, this is a no-brainer, we're going to have this done in a couple of hours. Took us an entire day of 10, 12 hours of creating and recording. And other stuff where we thought this is going to be complicated, and it just flew, you know. And in before lunch break, even you're done with the song, and it's very funny. But again, we've been involved in every note that we sing on there, and it's wonderful, you know. It just makes it feel yours every time you sing it and perform the song.
I think it makes it even more special than already is, right?
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
That's amazing. And well, I know that Despertar Sin Ti is also included in the album as an original composition. What was the inspiration behind this beautiful song?
Unfortunately, I can't tell you too much about it because I was not involved in it. Sebastian and David co-wrote that with our producer, Carlos Lopez. I remember Sebastian, you know, Sebastian has always been kind of working, dabbling as a songwriter. I know David has done some stuff again as well. And Sebastian always wanted to have his original music on the Il Divo albums. And to me, I don't really care about that. I always just wanted to sing good music. And I always said, hey, if I have a list of 10 songs which are tried and tested and I think they're fabulous, and you come up with a song that you have written and it's just as good, then obviously that song's going to go on the album. No problem. You know, so that was just my criteria and the only one I had. I don't care who writes the music I'm singing, you know, it doesn't matter to me. And yes, it's very funny because they've been working on this. They just wanted to write a song together and have an original song on the album. And they've come up with other ideas, other versions. And I remember very well a version they sent us months before we started recording. And I've listened to it and I said, I'm sorry, I don't like this at all. The first part sounds like it's taken from that song, and the chorus sounds like it's taken from that song, and you just mix it together. So for me, no, that's a blunt no. And you know, but I mean, not in an offensive way, and they were not offended and did say, you know what, I get what you're saying. We'll go back to the drawing board and start over. And then, yeah, in the end, Despertar Sin Ti, as I said, I was not involved in the composition. And it was very funny that they were still, when we started recording the vocals, they still had not come up with the bridge part, you know, the part between the verse and the chorus. They still had to figure that melody out. So that kind of happened when we were recording the vocals. And then, yeah, and then as I told you, the process for the rest then was the same. Like with the other songs, we once we had all the leads down, we started creating harmonies, and I was involved in that. But Yeah, I think it's great. You know, we've had a lot of original songs in Il Divo over the years, written by other songwriters, you know, from the very beginning on. Which some of them we have sung regularly. I mean, one track which is very famous is Hasta mi final. That's
Yes.
an original Il Divo song, you know. But then again, it doesn't really matter if people know that or not, you know, because I mean, take other songs, take our version of Chris Isaak, Don't Wanna Fall in Love with You, you know, Wicked Game, our Melancholia. It's a totally different piece of music than the beginning. Or what you mentioned in the beginning on now here on Double X, Despacito.
Mhm. Yes.
Our version and the Luis Fonsi, Daddy Yankee version has got very little to do with each other, you know.
Yeah, it's very different, but it's
Partly the
great.
same
Yeah.
lyric and it's the same main melody, but that's it, you know, because I found that very beautiful musical material, but
Mhm.
what the reggaeton version is, that is nothing to do with Il Divo. So we wanted to make something completely different. And yeah, so we just got that wide variety of music, and I'm very happy, you know, for Sebastian and for David and for Carlos Lopez
Yes.
as well, that we finally have a song on an Il Divo album, which actually comes out of the creative feather of the Il Divo camp itself, you know.
That's awesome.
Mm.
And well, you have mentioned that Carlos Lopez was also involved in production of this album.
Mhm.
So please talk about your experience of partnering with him and how his contribution has reinvigorated these songs.
I absolutely loved working with him. He's a wonderful man. He's so, you know, he's so patient. He's so soft spoken. He's so encouraging. It's really
Mhm.
it's wonderful. He creates a wonderful atmosphere for a singer to work with him. And he was also, as I said, you know, we were involved in creating the musical arrangements. So
Mhm.
that's obviously something he does very well. He studied a long time for. He's won loads of Grammys for that. He's very good at
Yes.
that, you know. But still, you know, he took all our suggestions on board, you know, and he listened to us. And as I said, in endless hours of conference calls and Carlos, try this, Carlos, try that, you know, and sometimes probably we had ideas that might have seemed absurd to him, you know, but he would never no, he's just always the perfect gentleman in everything. And it's wonderful working with him. I've enjoyed myself very much. I felt very, very safe, very familiar in this environment. And as I said, and he's just most gracious and most generous with his musical abilities and creativity. And he has, on the other hand, no ego where he needs to set himself above, you know,
Mhm.
you,
Yeah,
even though he knows he's much more qualified in certain things than we are, you know. So it was a wonderful collaboration.
that's fantastic. And well, you already have spoken about how all of you love the full, I mean, all of the songs of the album. But
Mhm.
what would you say were your favorites to record and why? Do you have some favorites?
One of my favorite songs on the album is the Whitney Houston track, I Have Nothing.
Mhm.
No tengo nada. That has various reasons. First of all, I do love the arrangement, the vocal
Mhm.
arrangement. I think what we've done with it, every voice is so perfectly in its place. And certain of the builds, you know, just before the second chorus, with Sebastian sings the Osios in there, and then it's just, I think the vocal arrangement is very, very well done. And another thing about that song is David suggested that song, and I thought, obviously, fabulous piece of music. I have no idea how we're gonna do this. It scared me, you know, because I mean, Whitney Houston we've done Whitney Houston songs before, but you know, I have nothing, nothing, nothing. Il Divo needs long notes to have to let the voice bloom and shine and carry and stuff like that. So there are these notes, but there is also quite wordy stuff in the song, and especially the nothing, nothing, nothing is almost percussive, more lyrical. How are we gonna do this? How are we gonna make this sound credibly Il Divo and beautiful? And well, it so wonderfully came together, actually. I'm very proud of that. And the last thing, which I'm gonna mention without bragging, but we wanted to do the song in Spanish. And
Okay.
there are Spanish versions out there, but there's no official Spanish lyric. So what are we gonna do? Oh, we can contract the lyricist and blah 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 blah, and that costs $5,000 or that costs $10,000, and they write a lyric for you and blah blah blah. And I said, you know what, guys, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna write that lyric because I am a singer. I speak Spanish. I'm married to a Spanish woman. I by no means claim in any way that I speak the language perfectly, far less than that. But I have, because I'm a singer and I'm going to sing these words, I will know if a line flows, if the accents are in the right way, where music has got the accents, because to me that's crucial. And there are very, very famous songs out there, whether they're in Spanish or in English or whatever, and these criteria are not fulfilled, and I absolutely hate it. I can't stand that. If somebody doesn't sing to the rhythm but to the rhythm, I think it just sounds horrible. I can't, you know. So yeah, I took that challenge upon me, and it's very funny because I did not sit down and take the lyric and started a translation. I knew the original lyric in English, and I pretty much wrote the translation in my gym on the treadmill.
Wow.
That is a very funny thing, but maybe people who work out can say, yeah, that's pretty obvious, because when you're in the gym and you work out, it's like a meditation, you're focused on your physical activity
Yes.
and your brain kind of empties and you get into the
So
zone.
your creativity unfolds somehow, right?
Exactly. No, I'm not going to change all my colors for you. Okay, yeah. I'm going to say that, and then you go over versions and versions and versions in your head. And at some point you come up with something. And then it's very funny as well, because I came up kind of with a first draft of the lyric and I showed it to my wife and she said, yeah, no, it's absolute not good, because it's a translation, but Spanish speaking person would not say these things. So, okay, that was a bit depressing, but
You help a little bit with it somehow.
yeah, no, but I kind of managed to then find better solutions for certain things, and I know as well, that you cannot just translate word for word. That just doesn't work.
Yeah.
You cannot just translate one language. I speak 6 languages, so I know very well you cannot just translate a sentence word for word into another language, and it means the same. Just doesn't not work like that, So, but I was very I was very proud of that lyric. I think it's a very beautiful lyric that I've written, and it sings very beautifully. And yeah, that's just. I think for all these reasons, you see, it's not just like, oh, I like listening to that song. It's very emotionally involved in every aspect of it, and that's why I would say
Yeah.
that was a long answer to maybe a short question. But
That's great. Thank you so
yeah.
much. And well, I know this 2024, you will be taking your double X 20th anniversary tour to international and national audiences.
Mhm.
So, what can you tease about what we can expect of this of your common performances?
Well, first of all, we're going to perform almost the whole album live, because we think it's just worth it. It's not an album where you have got 3 good tracks and 7 fillers. We think every song on this album is worth being performed live in the show. And a reason for that, I think, is as well because it is, as you said in the very beginning, the first album we've recorded with Steven as part of Il Divo.
Yes.
So Il Divo now and for the last 2 years is David, Sebastian, Urs, and Steven. Because the past is in the past. The past might be beautiful or sad or dramatic or wonderful, but now is now, and where we want to look is into the future. So therefore, Steven is now in Il Divo, and this is Steven's music. And that's why we want to use as much of that as we can. And for the rest, of course, we will always sing the big hits, like a Regresami, like a My Way, you know, stuff like that. Probably Melancholia, Isabel, stuff like that. And we, we want to create a spectacle which is, how shall I say this? Something that is visually more interesting and more inspired than what we've done in the past, because we kind of that had a lot to do with the whole COVID situation, and it was very difficult to make a concert after COVID because you just did not have the pure technicalities of it. You did not get the equipment, you wouldn't find the people, you know. So you'd have to kind of scale everything down to an almost a concept version of things, you know. And it became a bit static, I found. And what we're aiming for is make something which is going to be visually much more exciting. And at the same time, our own performances and our own stage presence, I'm aiming to get it much more fluid, much more interpretive. I like to think of it as theatrical, but if I say that, people probably get a wrong idea. You know, we're not gonna play parts of, we're gonna perform as ourselves, perform our music, but every piece of music, be it 3.5 minutes long, is a story that starts somewhere and has got ups and downs and a finality. And that is really what I would like to interpret on this stage, not only with my voice, but with the movement and with all the visuals around it. So yeah, we're working on a spectacle that will be hopefully not only be very beautiful to listen to, but also very beautiful to watch.
That's amazing. And well, my final question will be, what would you like to say to everyone who are fans and supporters of the music that you make?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody who's listening to Il Divo, because it is unbelievable that we've been able to do this for 20 years, and that after 20 years, we still feel excited and inspired every time we get out on the stage and have an audience in front of us and sing for them and present them with our music. And we are always very grateful about everything, all that wonderful energy we get back from the audience when they listen to our music. And I'm not just talking about applause, you know, but it's, I think that's one of the most important things. When you're a performer on stage, you want to feel an emotional connection with the people you perform for. And our audience is giving us that and has been giving us that for the last 20 years and keeps giving that to us. And I'm eternally grateful that we have such wonderful fans and such a wonderful audience. And I'm also very happy that every time when we play somewhere, we come to a city, maybe a new city where we, even after 20 years, have never performed, or a city where we have performed 20 times already. There's always a lot of new people who come and sit there, enjoy our music, and leave the concert hall with a smile. And thank you so much, everybody. It's wonderful. And we will keep going and making the most beautiful music we can as long as you'll be out there listening to us. I promise that.